Hey, I didn't hear you come in. Well, good afternoon. It's Wednesday, October 22nd of the 2008. I'm Ben, and you just tuned into a series I'm going to call Challenge That. Okay, today we're going to be challenging a very basic fact about life that applies to everybody. Doesn't matter if you're Judeo-Christian, Islam, Hindu, Buddhist, atheist, secular, doesn't matter. This applies to you, okay? Unless you don't think you're going to die. Okay, and that is a little segue to what I was reminded about earlier. You know, I was just chilling out, relaxing, maxing all cool, shooting myself some questions, and I thought of something my mom taught me. You know, she goes, Ben, life is only going to give you two things. It's going to give you death, and it's going to give you taxes. And then, from a Christian point of view, I started thinking, I was like, was that God's original plan for life? Death and taxes. There's no love in that, right? If I know anything about God's original plan for life, it's that it had nothing to do with sin. And I think if you're a Christian, you have to agree with me on that. And if you don't, just take it in for a second. And if you're a Christian, you also have to accept that Paul said that the wages of sin is death. Okay, so you got to agree with that. Okay, we might need to pause and recap for a second. So we know that A, God's original plan for life did not include sin, and we know that B, the wages of sin is death. So let's make this crazy leap and jump in faith to the C conclusion that God's original plan for life did not include sin, therefore did not lead to death, therefore immortality. Wouldn't that be crazy to be immortal, to live forever, or would it be even crazier to get raptured? And that's where I'm going with all this. Okay, what do we know about creation? As Christians, we know what Moses wrote in Genesis about Adam and Eve and about them in the Garden of Eden. And in the Garden of Eden, we are given two trees, which I think represent God's original plan for life and then the plan for life that man chose, okay? The original plan for life was the tree of life, where we have eternal life and mortality, okay? Then the tree man chose was the tree of good and evil, which sin entered our life and therefore death entered our life. So if Adam would have stuck with the tree of life, we'd all be living in life forever. And we'd be taken off this world through rapture because we wouldn't have sin in our life. Therefore, we'd be able to become perfect as we need to be for the Lord to take us, just like he did Enoch. Remember Enoch? He lived here for 365 years. Not 365 days in a year, but he lived for 365 years, and then he was raptured. And then we have the other person who was raptured after he died, did it a completely different way, of Jesus Christ. And the funny thing about Jesus Christ was, I guarantee you, during his lifetime, there was numerous times where he could have been raptured. He was at perfection. I guarantee you, when he was praying, he was getting off the chain with the Lord, and it was just going nuts. It would have been easier for him to enter the kingdom of heaven than it would be for Enoch. I think that's an easy assumption to make. But he couldn't do that. He knew his work here wasn't done. And the hardest thing as a Christian is to come off the mountain. When you're on the mountain close to God, you don't want to go off the mountain and come back down to the valley. But when your work is in the valley and the work isn't done, you got to go back in the valley. And when you know you got to go back down in there, it takes stuff from you, right? And so if we had this tree of life, we'd be sitting in eternal life. But because we're in the tree of good and evil, we're going to die. Unless we're raptured. And that's the next part, which you'll tune into next time, where I'm going to talk more about the end time rapture. Okay, before I sign off on the second vlog on this profile, I would just like to say that God's original plan for your life did not include death. Satan entered death into your life, and so be mad at him for it. And if you really think you're going to die, I would love for you to get to know this guy called Jesus Christ. He's defeated death, and he's been raptured. So he is our ticket. So peace out, YouTube. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you next time. Woo!